Okay, we're live. Big East Coast Podcast, Monday, December 26th.
Did you really almost mess that up?
Yeah, well, after Christmas, the days kind of run together. Yeah, I'm Rob, that's Chris. Hopefully everyone had a nice Christmas. I know I had a very nice Christmas / birthday. Fun times there. Kind of missing college basketball a little bit. We're in the middle of the lull, even though I didn't even know this until I looked yesterday. There were some games yesterday. I didn't watch
there were
them.
a couple.
There were a couple. The Diamond Head Classic, I believe it is called. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. How was your Christmas? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yep, I did. I definitely did.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, so I guess we can just jump right in. Going to be relatively heavy on questions again today. Which is fine. I mean, there weren't a ton of games last week, and really, there's only one or two worth talking about from the Big East. I mean, everyone took care of business and did what they were supposed to do, and I think there were only two results that I would call surprising of all the games last week.
And which ones were those?
I mean, obviously, St. John's burning down the Carrier Dome.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was probably a little more surprised about Providence Boston College than I should have been, since the home team wins every year.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, no, definitely, though, St. John Syracuse was shocking.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't have expected St. John's to win by as much. I mean, you figure they're going on the road. They're a young team. Syracuse had their struggles this year. Maybe they would squeak out a win by a couple points, but they just blew them out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, St. John's led. They won by 33. They led by as many as 37.
Yeah.
They didn't trail after the first 5 or 6 minutes. They beat them down, and Shmori Pons is really going to be the Big East freshman of the year conversation after all. And he's just one of the guys. Actually, and we'll get into that in a little bit because I know we have a question about it. What?
There's feedback on your end.
What? I don't hear it.
I heard there's a little bit of static.
Well, you can't just stop the whole thing just because you hear something.
No, I'm just letting you know.
I think we're okay. Maybe.
It was continuous, but I don't know.
I mean, I
don't hear anything now, so you're good.
Headphones, I have some.
Yeah, I think you're good though.
Okay. But yeah, Shmori Pons had a really nice game, and he repeated as freshman of the week this week. And that's what you're going to get with St. John's. They're going to be this enigma every game. And we talked about it. There are going to be bad losses. There certainly have been bad losses. But to go and have one of the more impressive wins of the non-conference schedule against Syracuse team that, they're probably not that good, but they've never lost by that many points at the Carrier Dome, I don't think.
I think they said it was like the second largest loss under Boeheim at the Carrier Dome in, the arena's history. So
yeah.
Yeah, and I think, amidst all their struggles, amidst the fact that they're 6-7, they had a few bad losses coupled in there, like you had mentioned. The offense for St. John's is demonstrably better than it was last year. I don't think there's any denying that right now.
Yeah.
Like, they are so far and away a much better offensive team than they were a year ago. Their 2-point field goal percentage could be a lot better. Right now, according to KenPom, it's 256 in the country. You'd like to see that improve, but 3-point shooting is the way this team is scoring points and the way that they're winning games. They have the 12th best 3-point field goal percentage in the entire country, and I believe the top mark in the Big East Conference, if not second behind Creighton.
Yeah, I think Creighton. So, second and first in the country, actually.
Yeah, no, you're right. So Creighton's 45.5% and St. John's is 41%. Their 3-point rate right now, which is the amount of 3-pointers they're taking, compared to the field goal attempts that they have, is 41.8%, which is 60th in the country. And as far as point distribution goes, 39.8% of their points this year have come off the 3-pointer. The Division I average is 30.5. So, and there's like less than a 2% difference from point distribution from 3-pointers to 2-pointers right now on their team. So yes. They are certainly it's the old adage: live by the 3, die by the 3. St. John's is legitimately living up to that motto right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting kind of, though, also, if you look at the top 15 or so teams in 3-point shooting, there's good teams and there's bad teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now, too. You have Creighton, and then you have Washington behind them. Washington, of course, despite the fact that they have Markelle Fultz, certainly not where they want to be at 7-5. And then you go down the list. You have Air Force, who has done a decent job so far. They're 7-6, so they're probably not where they want to be either. But Houston's been good. UCLA obviously has one of the best offenses in the country, if not the best. And then Lehigh, Pepperdine, Southeastern Louisiana of the Southland Conference. Then you have Purdue and Kansas, and then San Francisco, then, of course, St. John's, and then Jacksonville State, Canisius, and Kennesaw State. So
there's a wide variety of teams you get there.
Yeah, it's certainly a wide variety, garden variety, however you want to discuss it. But like I said, I don't think that it's not remotely close. This offense right now for St. John's much better than they were a year ago. Their main issue is just consistency, and their defense hasn't been super up to par where it was. Even though
if you look at their KenPom profile, just from last year to this year, obviously conference play hasn't happened yet, but there's a lot of, red to very red things they had last year. Obviously, red means bad. And then this year, I mean, there's a couple light red things, but they don't have that dark red that they had last year all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not looking at most of their results. I mean, aside from the Penn State game, they really haven't been blown out.
No, they played Michigan State very well. They played VCU very well. That game was close in the last couple minutes.
All their other losses besides the Michigan State game and the Penn State game have all been by single digits.
Yeah,
and it's mostly just come down to a couple plays and executing. That's what you're going to get when you get a young team like they have. So, I think that I think that amidst all this this crap that they have and the 6-7 record, there are noticeable signs of improvement, and I think that while some in the fan base, I don't know about the entire fan base, and I don't know how most St. John's fans feel, but at least from a Big East and national perspective, I think people need to settle down a tad bit, because it's not like there hasn't been improvement. This isn't, to draw a comparison here, this isn't like Kim Anderson at Mizzou, where things continue to get worse. Things have gotten better, even if the record hasn't exactly indicated that. From a statistical standpoint, things have gotten much better from a year-to-year standpoint. And, of course, it's very easy to do that when you have a roster that was down to bare bones last year and you make additions this year. So they're doing exactly what they should be doing. It's not showing in the win-loss column.
St. John's is still probably going to be lucky to win 10 games this year. I mean, let's face it as it is. I mean, but you gotta look past the record sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
And of course, winning games is what's most important. But they're showing signs of improvement right now. They are also recruiting well. Yeah. They're bringing in good transfers, and they're between Marvin Clark and I think is Justin Simon a transfer, or was he a recruit?
No, he's a transfer. He's a 5-star.
Yeah, because he went to Arizona, right?
Yeah.
So they've got him, and they've got Marvin Clark coming in next year, also from Michigan State. So they're they're following the proper formula right now.
Yeah.
And as long as things mesh well, then they'll be able to improve it. Obviously, St. John's just needs to also get more production out of their big guys, but with the departure of young Kubasima, it's going to be a little bit more tough sledding. But they're like I mentioned, they're doing what they have to do. They just have to make it show in the win-loss column. That's the next step. But if they can have a good offensive year this year and continue this pace that they're on, and play respectably in Big East play, even if they don't rack up a lot of wins, then they'll take another step forward, and then they'll take another step forward in 2017.
Yeah, and really the interesting thing is they've been so successful this year, and it's kind of a new team again. I mean, their best player from last year was probably Federico Mussini, and he hasn't done a whole ton this year relative to last year. And then obviously, Jan Kubasima was one of their better players last year. He's gone. So, it's kind of similar to last year in that they don't have a ton of experience, which is something we talked about a lot also. They're the third least experienced team in the country. But, to see it come together and kind of, even if it's just the one win, even if that one win against Syracuse is their biggest moment of the year, it's still something nice to have. Yeah,
exactly. And speaking of Mussini, one thing you like to see from your players in a year-to-year basis is progression, and he's improved so far from a 3-point perspective. His percentage last year was 29.1%. Right now, it's at 48.3%. So, and he's doing that against what KenPom calls the Tier A and Tier B teams. So he's doing okay against the good teams and the teams on the next level. He's shooting 38.5% against those teams. Last year, on the whole, he shot on the whole against Tier A and B 30%. So again, you're seeing strides being made. You're seeing improvement in your players, and that's what you want. So the fact that this is happening is helpful. It just might not be showing in the win-loss column. But you should dig a little deeper sometimes than just looking at wins and losses, especially with a team like this and a situation like that at St. John's. Because let's face it, Lavin left that program in shambles.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's not his fault, really. I mean, he left when a lot of guys were seniors. And guys like Rasheed Jordan didn't stick around. Chris O'Beckford didn't stick around. So, it was kind of a perfect storm of badness.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lavin certainly isn't blameless in what happened and why St. John's is in the situation that they're in right now. Yeah. But, Mullen is doing all he can do right.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk to me about, it's like we've mentioned on and on and on and on. If you want to talk about Mullen, let's wait until he gets a full recruiting cycle in. So after season 4, if he's allowed that long of a leash, which I don't really know the dynamic at St. John's, but I think that they would understand that this situation that they're in is a little bit dire, and he probably needs to have a pretty long leash so that he's judged properly.
Yeah.
So I think he'll definitely he'll definitely make it past year 3, but that's just my perspective. Unless things completely go down the toilet, which I don't think is going to happen.
No,
and there's too much talent in this team.
Yeah. So the other game we talked about Boston College and Providence. I mean, it was a good game for a while, and then Providence kind of just had that stretch where they went real cold, and you get down by 20. They cut it to, I think, 6 with a nice little run, but too much. Just can't get down by 20. And, I don't think it's necessarily a worry. I mean, obviously it's not what you want, but they were going to have problems going on the road in Big East play anyway. So I don't know if it necessarily exposed anything for Providence. I mean, every team's going to have problems going on the road.
I think what might worry me a little bit about Providence, and maybe it's just a two-game overreaction, but their 3-point percentage in their last 2 games against Maine, they only shot 27.6% on 29 attempts. And then on the road at Boston College, they only shot 20.8% on 24 three-point attempts. Now, this was a team that was shooting well from the three-point line, which was a little bit unusual for an Ed Cooley team at Providence. If you look at their numbers, they have historically not been a great three-point shooting team, aside from, maybe 1 year, and even then it was only at like 35.3%. That was Ed Cooley's first year there. So they're typically not a good three-point shooting team. So I'm cautiously wondering if that was a flash in the pan and if that's not going to be sustainable going forward, given the history that, that offense and that system that Cooley has had in the past 5 or so years that he's been there at Providence.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's definitely a valid point to bring up, and it's something we'll have to just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to tell.
It is, because you don't know if this is maybe he actually does have the personnel to shoot well from three, because it was looking that way, and I did make that point in the Twitter account once a couple weeks ago, and now the past 2 games they've shot extremely poorly. So I don't think it's going to be that drastic of a drop, but there's certainly signs of, okay, well, maybe this is trending downward all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you mentioned, Providence is probably going to have their struggles on the road. We hadn't really had many opportunities to determine that, except for the one true road game that they had before that at Ohio State, which they lost, and then they went 1-1 on a neutral floor at where the hell? Down in the whatever the hell, the Emerald Coast Classic, or whatever it was. So and it doesn't help Providence's case, of course, that they have to go to Cincinnati and Indianapolis this week. So
no, that's
back to back.
Not a great start.
No, it's not. So that we'll see how well that theory holds weight.
Yeah, I mean, there's really, in terms of games from last week, unless you want to talk about the Jersey game, not a whole ton more to talk about. I mean, Villanova didn't lose to American, obviously.
Yeah.
Creighton and Arizona State kind of went how everyone expected, except for the first 5 minutes when Arizona State looked good. But I didn't get to watch Rutgers and Seton Hall. I had a couple things going on, but from what I saw, it was a pretty good game. Good for the state, and Angel Delgado had another big game. And Seton Hall looks ready to go going into conference play, but I mean, it's something that we've talked about in the past. How they've really struggled with the change from non-conference play to conference play over the years.
Yeah, and it'll be all about piecing that together and making sure everything works. But on that game, it was a pretty well played game. Seton Hall obviously had their huge offensive struggles in the first half, which the point that we've made on the podcast the past few weeks is that they need to sharpen up their offensive game and go back to what they were doing at the start of the season before they ran into trouble in that Stanford game. They only scored 23 points in the first half. Not the greatest of looks, obviously. Their shooting percentages on the whole were both under 40% on 2-pointers and 3-pointers. They only shot 61.3% from the free throw line, which is right around their average on the season of 61.6, which that's going to have to improve. And for whatever reason, that seems to be a hallmark of Kevin Willard's teams at Seton Hall. They cannot shoot free throws well at all.
Yeah, that's something to focus on. I mean,
and it's so weird. 67.2, 67.4, 65.8. They had 1 year at 72.1, and then 65.7, 65.8, and now 61.6. For whatever reason, and even if you go back to his years at Iona, 68.1, 66, 69.4. for whatever reason, Kevin Willard's teams just cannot shoot free throws well. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why.
No.
Like it has to be an emphasis of practice because this continues to be, the one really terrible thing that Seton Hall does almost on a yearly basis at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
And I cannot understand for the life of me why it happens. And Miles Powell, to his credit, has been their best free throw shooter. He's making 84% of his attempts so far, closely followed by Madison Jones, who has a mark of 75.9%. The interesting thing there, of course, is that both of those players are newcomers to the program. Madison Jones coming from, I believe, Wake Forest, and Miles Powell, of course, is a freshman. So I don't know if there's anything there to make of that, but it's certainly there. But yeah, onto that game. Good second half by Seton Hall, though. They are now 8-0. Whenever the combination of Kadeem Carrington, Angel Delgado, and Desi Rodriguez all score in double figures. So when those players are making an impact, unsurprisingly, Seton Hall does well. And I think another takeaway to take from this, not Big East related, Rutgers might actually be okay.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was able to take away too.
Yeah, I mean they played Seton Hall really hard and really well, and I know as someone had mentioned it, the last 2 years or so with Rutgers and them being in the doldrums and being downright terrible. They only won 17 combined games in the last 2 seasons before this year. More of an aberration than the reality when it comes to the Seton Hall Rutgers rivalry, that they've played each other close very much over the past couple years. When they were in the Big East, they took a year off from this. Well, no, they didn't take a year off from this rivalry. It was only a 6-point game back in 2013 when these two teams played. So they got back to form this time around. And at 11-2, no matter what the outcome is of their season, Steve Picciel can coach, and they are headed in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one more thing on Seton Hall, with Veer Singh and Miles Carter now gone. I mean, is the depth going to be some sort of issue for them going forward?
Interesting question. It's tough to see. It's kind of tough for me to make an assessment based off of those two players because, they weren't exactly making a huge impact to begin with.
No, but if you just look at the guys on campus, they're 6 or 7 deep. I mean, once you get past, Michael or Ishmael Sanogo, who gets some quality minutes, you're down to guys like Rashid Anthony and Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I do wonder if depth will be an issue. They'll certainly benefit from the fact that Javon Thomas is now aboard. Javon Thomas, like Marcus Foster, the now reigning Big East Player of the Week, in case you missed that news. Also a transfer from Kansas State. So he'll be aboard now for the rest of the semester. And he'll be I think he's going to probably be like their Derek Gordon of last year, because apparently he was making waves defensively in practice, which is certainly going to be something needed for this team going forward. So he'll be a quality addition off the bench, and I do wonder how Willard's going to use his bench now that he is without Carter, who was dismissed from the program last week, and of course Veer Singh had announced his intentions to transfer. So now he'll have Soffer, who's barely logged any minutes this year, and Aaron Gordon, a freshman who has barely logged any minutes this year, most probably likely due to the fact that they're pretty guard heavy as it is, and they've gotten great contributions out of Powell as well. So, yeah, I guess depth could be an issue, but like you mentioned, once you get past Sanogo and Nessie, everything's kind of up for grabs as it is. So, and now they'll have the addition of Thomas, so they'll be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 deep or so.
Yeah. Okay.
And Anthony also, but it's when it comes down to Seton Hall, while they will be a little deeper, it's mostly just going to come down to the play of Carrington, Delgado, and Rodriguez. But that's stating the obvious. But Delgado continues to be a monster. So.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I mean, those are the two main games from last week. Not a whole bunch else happened. Um. So, do we want to jump into this week, or do we want to do questions first?
We can do questions first. That's fine.
All right. Just while you bring those questions up, quick point about Creighton. Those Doug McDermott teams, they were first in the nation in three-point shooting at about 41%, and Creighton right now is at 45% on the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily sustainable because 45 is a couple full percentage points higher than what has been the case the past few years for the leader, but you never know. I mean, Creighton's a talented team filled with a lot of nice guys that can do you some damage.
Yep.
And, I know in the Arizona State game, Justin Patton was even out there hitting threes, which is something that the rest of the country has to be a little concerned about.
Yeah.
He's going to do that regularly.
Seriously. All right. I think I've got the first of our slew of questions that we have here. So
Okay.
when you're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. First question from Cam. What did Dave Leto get for Christmas this year?
You know, I'm not going to be mean. It's holidays, but DePaul's in not the best shape right now. They lost both their games in Vegas. Almost lost to Southeast Missouri earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're not doing great. Eli Kane struggled a bit in Vegas. I know he had the 2 for 18 game, that one game, and then wasn't particularly much better against Missouri State. And Eli Kane's a guy that we speak very highly of on this program because he's usually the reason to watch DePaul games. But if he's going to struggle, it's going to be hard for us to watch and hard for them to get anything going.
Yeah, I think when it comes to DePaul's struggles in Vegas, you really don't have to look too far and just say, okay, Eli Kane struggled. That's probably why they lost.
Yeah,
because he's one of their main sources of offense, and if he's not getting it going, then they're in some trouble. So
yeah, so they're going to have to figure it out. Obviously, it doesn't get any easier for them going to Villanova Wednesday night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
All right, next question from Anonymous Eagle. I'm getting the shakes from the lack of basketball. How can I tie myself over till Wednesday? Well,
you could have watched the 5-7 team win the bowl game today.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
Yeah,
and I didn't really watch that game. From what I saw, it wasn't very well played. And then you had, the college football, please like my sport type of people who were like, oh, well, all bowl games are meaningful and that game was good. Just because a game is close doesn't mean it was good.
It wasn't the most spectacular or most well played games now between Mississippi State and Miami of Ohio, but I think the worst part of that game was the fact that it was played at the Trop.
Yeah, but to answer your question, you got Raw and SmackDown both in front of a Rosemont crowd the next couple days. Should be a lot of fun. Watch that. I don't normally advocate for the NFL, but you got 2 playoff teams going tonight on Monday Night Football, and the Lions and Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
That should be decent. Yesterday, if you need something to watch, the NBA games were all pretty good from what I saw.
Yep.
So, there's stuff to watch. It's obviously not the same, but I kind of enjoy the little break, because it's gonna ramp up pretty soon.
Exactly. All right. Next set of questions here from Ken EC at GhostXLIX, so Ghost49. Is that correct? Yeah, that's 40. Yeah, 49. Okay. Biggest surprise and disappointment teams from non-conference play. For me, the surprise, I guess the surprise would be the word, is probably Butler. I certainly expect them to do well. Didn't expect them to be 11-1. I certainly didn't expect their one loss on their schedule to be the Indiana State game.
Yeah.
And as far as disappointments, I didn't view Georgetown super highly, so I guess I can't really call them a disappointment. I was kind of mixed on Xavier, so where they are at this point, it's not super surprising. But I guess relative to the expected success that they were supposed to have, I guess you could say Xavier's a bit of a disappointment at where they're at right now, based on how they lost and where they are as a team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Butler's probably the biggest surprise. I mean, you could say Creighton, but really once they got past Wisconsin,
yeah,
everything really opened up for them. And yeah, I mean, I don't think Xavier's necessarily been a disappointment. I mean, they're in the top 25 still.
Exactly, but like disappointment for the standards that were set for them. I would think that they're.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to pick a team,
exactly, yeah, because like I mentioned, I don't think Georgetown's much of a disappointment. I didn't really view them super highly this year to begin with. I think that they were being propped up mostly because they were an experienced team, and usually experienced teams will do well. Yeah. But they've just been who they've been for the past few years, but. They are on a 16 win streak, so they have made some improvements and made strides. So even them as a disappointment has been even for their standards, they're certainly on the up and up. And I guess from the Big East coach's perspective, Providence is a big surprise, eh?
Yeah, you got that right.
I don't think they're. I know that they did lose to Boston College, but I don't think they're going to be finishing 9th in the Big East. So, all right. Your first team all Big East from non-conference play. Well, spoiler alert, as I mentioned on the Twitter account before, we will be handing out Big East non-conference season awards on Wednesday afternoon before Big East play starts. So keep your eye on that. I know I have my ballot in front of me right now, and it reads like this. Let me see if I can get this loaded up really quickly. Because I was the first to vote here, so I remember that it was my ballot.
Yeah, I didn't vote yet.
Tisk. Well, you have till tomorrow night, Rob. All right. And unlike the Big East, my Big East Player of the Year is included here. That's Josh Hart. I also have Angel Delgado of Seton Hall. Double machine has been virtually unstoppable to this point. I also have Maurice Watson Jr. on here as well. He's been terrific for Creighton so far, unsurprisingly at that. Joining them is Rodney Bullock of Providence, who's broken out and been a terrific player so far for the Friars. Big reason why they are at 10-3 to this point. And lastly, because I really couldn't ignore his statistics to this point, and although he plays on the aforementioned Hoyas, I think Rodney Pryor deserves first team All Big East nod because, I mean, the guy is shooting well over 50% in both 3-point makes and 2-point makes. So,
yeah,
I mean, when you're that prolific, I don't care that Georgetown's record is 8-4. He deserves recognition.
Yeah. I think mine would probably be Watson, Hart, Blewett, Delgado, and then the fifth spot is pretty interesting. I mean, you want to reward a guy like Rodney Bullock maybe for his scoring. I mean, obviously Rodney Pryor's a good option too. I think just to be different, I would probably give it to Rodney Bullock.
That's fair.
Yeah. Obviously things can change going into conference play, but that's just where we stand right now. And Rodney Pryor, Rodney Bullock, both of them. Marcus Foster's a guy who you could definitely talk about as well. But I would probably give Bullock a slight edge over Pryor because Bullock has rebounding also going for him. Obviously, Pryor is a guard, so it's a little different, but that's where we're at.
I'll tell you what I'm a little bit surprised about. I'm looking at the voting so far.
Actually, Keelan Martin is a guy who I would strongly consider having in there too.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll tell you what I'm a little surprised about. There is almost no love right now for Darryl Reynolds. Darryl Reynolds is playing out of his mind on both ends of the floor right now. His effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentages are both over 73%. I know he's a big guy, but that's outrageous.
Yeah, Reynolds is also probably the fourth best player on his team. I mean,
I know, but he's still playing out of his mind, and he's also.
I get what you're saying, but
I get it, but damn, his offensive rating right now per Sports Reference is 125.7. His defensive rating is 92.8. Like, damn, he's doing really well.
Yeah, I mean he's done what's been asked of him, really. And that's
yeah. Like I understand. Like he's obviously not Josh Hart, and I don't. Maybe he's not Chris Jenkins or even Jalen Brunson, but dude is balling right now and deserves a lot more recognition. I might write about him. I don't know. He's doing really well though.
Yeah.
Like I'll start the appreciation machine for Darryl Reynolds if I have to. He's doing really, really well, and absolutely no one is talking about it at all.
Yeah. But
right. Next question from Ken here. The best game of the non-conference outside of St. John's versus Syracuse.
Best game in terms of most significant or best played?
I don't know.
I think I'd probably pick Villanova Purdue.
Same here.
Butler, Indiana's right there. Also.
Yeah.
So one of those.
I would tend to agree. All right. Next question from him. Yes, it's quite a few questions. The favorite ghost from A Christmas Carol. I guess I have to make a confession here on the podcast. I have never seen A Christmas Carol before. So I am not qualified to answer that question.
Wow. That's terrible.
What can I say? I watched Frosty a lot more than Christmas Carol.
You never even seen a Muppet Christmas Carol?
Maybe I have when I was younger. I probably did.
I don't really know how you would pick a favorite ghost. So I'm just go with the ghost of Christmas Future. And yeah.
All right. Next question is favorite not Rudolph reindeer.
Ooh. I'm gonna go with Blitzen.
I'll go with Comet because he's named after a great dog from Full House.
Don't even start.
Yeah, hold on. Let me change that.
Yeah. So Chris is gonna get that taken care of. And
I think we're better now.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, okay. That was bad.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Comet because he's named after a great dog from Full House.
Yes.
All right, and that wraps up the questions from Ken. Thank you for asking so many questions, Ken. Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
All right, next question's from Pete Thorman, who asked us most surprising Big East team through non-conference play, both good and bad. As we mentioned, we think Butler is the most surprising Big East team from a positive perspective. I don't really know who I would say for the bad perspective, though. That's the question.
No, it's hard to pick one.
it is very hard to pick one because the conference is pretty good, and everyone's pretty much going according to plan. Providence obviously succeeding and outdoing their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to pick a bad team.
Yeah.
All right. His next question was the biggest single win for the conference in non-conference play. I think it's probably between Villanova at Purdue or Butler over Indiana, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
One of those two. Flip a coin. And his last question is: Die Hard really a Christmas movie? I would say yes.
Yeah, I mean, probably not, but Twitter really likes to say it is, so whatever.
All right. Next question from Musketeer fan at MuskeFan3: is a hot dog a sandwich? Rob, you know my opinion on this. It's not.
Not only is a hot dog a sandwich, but you can make a strong case that a taco is a sandwich.
God. Tortilla is not a bread.
I mean, you make it with flour.
You don't have to make it with flour. You can make it with corn.
A tortilla is essentially a flatbread.
For God's sake. Okay. Anyways, next question from Ryan Alsman. What is Butler's ceiling and how good is this team really?
We talked about this. They check all the boxes.
Yeah.
In terms of having a great coach, a go-to scorer, depth, the big game, big win experience. So, I mean, really, if they can, continue this through Big East play and get a favorable draw where they end up in Indianapolis, they could definitely be in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think this team's ceiling is certainly hovering around the Sweet 16, Elite 8 at this point. They're deep. They have experience. And I hate using this phrase, but they know how to win in March. They've done so almost every year, it seems. At least one game has been won. Mm-hmm. I think that they're at this point going to get a high seed, so they're certainly going to have that to their benefit. They have a great coach in Chris Holtmann. So their ceiling is definitely around the second weekend. Whether they're Final Four good, I mean, stranger things have happened with Butler in the Final Four before. So,
yeah,
I think it wouldn't be great. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run at this point.
This roster is, as we've talked about, probably the most talented they've ever had.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll see. But this team is really freaking good. So,
yeah,
that is my answer to that second question.
Actually, didn't realize Ken has slid into the KenPom Player of the Year race.
Yep. So we've got that going for him.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from our friend Russ Steinberg. Who should UConn football hire? That's a good question.
No one.
Jeff Fisher.
They should give up football.
Yes, of course.
Which I believe is the next question.
Yeah, no, that was one of the next questions from Juan Ramos Mendez. And his first question was: is the Hall game a trap game for the Creighton Blue Jays?
I don't know if trap game is necessarily appropriate here because Seton Hall. I didn't check the AP poll in full, but I'm sure they're right. They got to be higher than 30. I know they're not ranked, but they're. Let me see.
26, 27. They're 28th.
Is this one updated for this? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Mike Jacobs sent the email this morning.
Yeah.
They're 28th. They received votes.
I don't know if trap game is necessarily appropriate for the description. I think Creighton's going to win. But I think it's going to be tough, especially for a guy like Justin Patton, who this is really his first true test of the year going up against a guy like Angel Delgado.
Yeah.
Obviously, Creighton played a couple good bigs in Wisconsin earlier on. But I I think Delgado's the best big they've faced so far, and their height might be tested a little bit, but on the same time, Seton Hall hasn't seen the guards like Creighton's have.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good warm-up for Creighton before they play Villanova, obviously, which, I mean, regardless of what Creighton does Wednesday against Seton Hall, the game against Villanova is going to be huge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a trap game. I don't think Creighton's going to lose, but obviously they shouldn't go in expecting an easy game against Seton Hall. I mean, Seton Hall's one of the better teams in the conference still. And I know Seton Hall hasn't really played particularly well at Central. Oh no, they did win at CenturyLink a couple years ago with that at the late rally.
Yep.
So, I think Creighton's going to be an adequate level of prepared for the game. I think all will too. I mean, that's probably the highlight of between the games Wednesday and Thursday night in the Big East. Depending on what you think of Xavier Providence or Georgetown Marquette, but I think Xavier Seton Hall is definitely better than either of those two.
Yes.
So no, I don't think it's necessarily a trap game, but I do think that Seton Hall could win. I just think that Creighton's going to win.
That worked. Yeah, that assessment is pretty much spot on. So, final question from Andrew Kennedy. In your podcast, do you mind referring to Nova as the champs? I think they've earned that right. Sure.
Absolutely. I mean,
yes.
we have the crown on Twitter.
Yep.
So yeah, those are questions. Those were good. Talk about Big East play real quick, and then we will be out of here.
Yep. All right, let's go down the list, so to speak.
Villanova plays DePaul. It's at the Pavilion, as if we needed another reason to not talk about it. They're not going to lose to DePaul at the Pavilion.
No, probably not.
Butler plays Thursday, so we'll wait on that for a minute. Xavier hosts Providence, which that's a really nice gauge of where Providence actually is.
Yeah, I agree.
If they can play Xavier close and maybe go into Cintas Center and pick up a win, then everyone can be all in on Providence. But right now, their best win is a Rhode Island team who they're probably pretty good, but they were at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and from a Xavier perspective, they want to get started on the right foot as well before they head on their trip over the weekend out to Washington, D.C. So, it's kind of cliche, but every game matters in conference play.
Yep.
So that's a big game for both sides. As far as we know, still no Miles Davis for that game. I think if I had to make a pick, I'd probably take Xavier.
Same here.
So, yes.
And that's no disrespect to Providence or whatever, but I think that Xavier, since it's at
more often than not, you're going to see the home team being picked on this program this year. Creighton and Seton Hall, it's a game we just talked about. And Marquette hosts Georgetown. Yeah.
That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's intriguing because you got Georgetown riding this hot streak that I don't know if a ton of people are aware of. They've won 6 games in a row. And then you got a Marquette team who could really use a big win, especially looking at after they go to Seton Hall and to Villanova. So you essentially have to imagine that they're definitely going to lose to Villanova, I would imagine. I mean,
yeah.
So you got a loss right there. So you'd like to pick up wins against Georgetown and Seton Hall if you can, but you need to pick up a win at least against Georgetown because Marquette's in a position too where, like we said, they don't have a ton of wiggle room.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I think there's more pressure on Georgetown to win, but I think Marquette could use a big win. So
Yeah. Yes, and then Butler and St. John's on Thursday night at the Garden. Is it at the Garden? No, it's at
No,
Carson.
that's probably Carnesecca.
I mean, that should be a fun game. You know, it's a good way to see where St. John's actually is. Um, I think Butler will probably pick up the win. They're favored right now in KenPom. It's actually pretty interesting, and I guess it makes sense if you think about it. Just in terms of KenPom, they might have done it like that on purpose. No, never mind. Because the teams that are projected to finish in the top 5 in the Big East in order: Villanova, Butler, Xavier, Creighton, and Marquette, and all 5 of them are projected to win their first Big East game.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So then if you go on to Saturday, no New Year's Eve marathon this year, but
Right.
still a lot of action. I mean, there might as well be a New Year's Eve marathon. I mean, there's good games. I mean, Villanova Creighton obviously is one we've talked about at length in the past, where you don't really know what's going to happen there. I mean, I don't even know who I would give an edge to. I know usually, Creighton gets the edge at home, but Villanova is just so hard to beat. And I don't know. Obviously, Creighton's defense hasn't really faced a test like Villanova yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So they're definitely going to be tested big time. Certainly, the crowd in Omaha will be rocking. That's going to be a doozy, especially so if both teams wind up unbeaten.
Yeah.
To that point, so obviously, Creighton has the tougher test ahead of them than Villanova does. So, that's gonna be really fun.
And then Xavier Georgetown is another really good game on Saturday morning.
It is. It is.
So, and I mean, it's really hard to talk about Saturday without having Wednesday as a barometer right now. I mean, you'll see some things that happen Wednesday that can be kind of telling for Saturday, or maybe not.
Exactly.
It's tough to talk about conference play because there's such little separation between the top 8 or so teams in this conference.
Yep, but that's just going to make it more fun.
Yeah. Yes, and then Sunday, you got Marquette going to Seton Hall, which you talked about as a game that's going to be very interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Providence going to Butler, which is another big one, and then St. John's DePaul, which I think at this point you got to almost take St. John's in that one.
Yeah,
there has been separation the past couple weeks of those teams, and DePaul's getting dangerously close to that 200 level in KenPom, which is troubling.
It is. It is. Unfortunately for woeful DePaul, I think St. John's probably does have the edge in possibly both matchups. But time will certainly tell.
Yes. So that's this week. Should be fun. Should be very exciting. Some good stuff coming up there.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what else do we have to talk about here?
That's about it.
Well. Yes, that is about it.
Yeah.
Been on for about an hour, so it's probably good to cut this bit short. The Big Ten starts tomorrow night if you want to watch that. I think American starts tomorrow night too if you like certain other conferences who aren't particularly good in those two.
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe we're about done here. So we will try and be back next Monday. It's going to be hard. We're going to be in Missouri. But, we're going to try and make it happen. If we have to do some sort of audio only type of deal for just next week, we can do that too. We'll figure it out. All right. So, for Chris, I'm Rob. Thank you for listening to Big East Coast Podcast, and we will have a bunch of good stuff on Big East Coast Bias for you, so keep reading.